Hello, I'm Emma Cownley and this is Kiss My A's, your content Q&A. This week we're going to be talking about how you write a book. Now before we get started, I've got a little something going on here, so I apologise for being really snotty and gross. Can't help it. This video is for people that are interested in writing a fiction book, but if you did want to write something factual, I would strongly recommend checking out my video on how to write a speech. The reason being is that writing a speech is kind of similar to writing a factual book or an essay. Really what you're doing is you're using an introduction to outline what you're going to be going through and what your argument will be, and then how to structure the piece and get to the final conclusion. So really, it is actually very similar. So if you wanted to write a factual book, go and check that out and then maybe pop back here for a couple of little extra tips. So this is really going to be a quick 5-minute overview on the process of writing, publishing, submitting, editing, all the ins and outs of doing your own book. I've published a couple of books in my time, and whenever I mention it to people, they always say, "Oh, I've had an idea for this, I really want to do it, but I just don't have the time." Bro, no one has the time. If you wait until you have the time, you're going to wait forever. I swear to God. You need to get off your ass and you need to just do it. So this is how it is done. Start by creating your outline. So this is your beginning, your middle and your end. Some authors don't actually know how their book is going to end. They've got their idea, they've got their characters firmly in place, they just start writing and allow the story to form as it goes. I think maybe you have to be a pretty sophisticated writer to use this technique, especially if you're new. Maybe it's a rather daunting way to try it out, so stick with your outline. Beginning, middle, end. Line up all your chapters. What's going to happen in each chapter? How does it push the narrative forward? Where are the points of action? Remember, your first chapter has to grab the reader and make them want to keep reading. You have to introduce your character. You have to introduce the scenario. Maybe give a little bit of a hint that something's going to happen further down the line. Make them want to keep reading. Each chapter, make sure you're pushing people through the narrative. There's nothing in there that's just fluff that's in there for no reason. It just helps to have this basic loose outline so that you're hitting the marks as you go through. The next thing you're going to want to do is flesh out your characters. Even if they're just walking characters, it helps to know how old are they, what's their favourite colour, how tall are they, what do they look like. What I personally like to do, it's a little bit probably amateurish, but I like to have an idea in my mind of the character in relation to somebody I know, or somebody I've seen, or maybe somebody famous, so that as I'm describing them in a very authentic way, because I know what they look like. I haven't just created a face in my mind. And a top tip from me, and I always do this, I write a lot of short stories just for fun, but everything that I've ever written, any manuscript I've gone through, I've always created a playlist for the manuscript. This is so every time I sit down to start writing and I put the playlist on, it really gets me back into that creative place very quickly. All of the songs have the same mood, they deal with the same subject matter. If your book was a film, this would be the soundtrack to that film. It's a really handy way of giving yourself a mental trigger. You can just plug right back into that environment and just get stuck in again. Now we get down to the writing, and I'm going to tell you this as the biggest tip ever. I mentioned it before in another video, I can't remember which one that was, and that is to just write. Get yourself into that zone, really steep yourself in the place and the people and the feel of it, and just write. Do not stop to edit. Don't do that at this stage. It will kill every iota of creativity in your physical being. You don't want to get hung up on that, because you will end up writing a paragraph and editing and editing and editing and editing, and after days you will end up with one perfect paragraph. And by that point, I guarantee you will run out of steam, you'll be bored with the project, you won't want to do it no more. So just write. Your challenge is to just get in the creative zone. Don't give yourself any blocks. subdue your inner editor and just write the shit out of that thing, get it all done. And just, the thing that I found very helpful was to set aside a Sunday afternoon, just a couple of hours on a Sunday, or on a lunch break I'd take myself off to a coffee shop maybe, and just get back in the zone, listen to my playlist, and bash out a couple of pages, and chip into it slowly over time. And as soon as I got to know those characters, I really wanted the story to play out. It was almost addictive. I'd find myself walking to work and thinking, oh, what would they do next? What's going to happen? How can I write this scene? Playing it out in my mind, how it was going to be. And by the time I sat down at my desk, I was ready to go. So that's just a little tip from me. It makes it more manageable because, as I said at the beginning, nobody really has time. When you say that you write a book, oh, you must have so much time on your hands. No, I don't. I just really wanted to write a book. It's on my life bucket list. So I'll do what it takes to make that happen. And I'm guessing if you're watching this video, you will too. So, you have written your book. Now comes the hardest part, is the editing. This will kill your soul. If you're going to drop off during the creative process, it will be this point, I guarantee you, because for me especially, there is nothing more boring than proofing and editing. It's boring. And as you go back through, you just think, why did I write that? What is this? What is that? Really be ruthless. Tidy it up. Cut out anything that's just pointless. Work your way through the whole thing. And then pass it out to a couple of really trusted friends. And I know this is going to be hard. When I was doing my creative writing masters, every week I had to write a short piece of fiction and pass it to the whole class. And the whole class would critique that piece of writing to my face. Writing is an incredibly personal thing. You've basically taken a story from your mind and interpreted it in your own unique way. So to have somebody tear into it can be really painful. Make sure that you trust whoever it is you're sharing your writing with, that they're going to be constructive in their criticism, and that they're going to give you an honest opinion as well. You don't want to pass it off to your mum and have her say it's awesome. By the way, my mum thinks my book is awesome, and I believe her 100%. But that's beside the point. Pass it off to somebody that's going to give you really good criticism. Who is this character? What was the point of them? I didn't understand it when this happened. I didn't understand it when that happened. You mentioned this, but it didn't come back up again. What was that about? It will really help you refine your story. So when you get that feedback in, go back and edit again. Maybe it needs refinement, maybe another character needs axing, or somebody comes in to help move the plot forward. This is a really good way to make sure you're hitting all the marks with your piece. So, you've got your feedback in, you've edited, you've polished it up all nice, and you're ready to actually do something with your manuscript. Now you've got two options here. You can start to look for publishers that will represent your work, in which case, go off, do a little Google, find people that you think might be into your work. Different publishers have different areas of expertise: young adult, crime fiction, horror. So as with anything, it always helps to target the people that are actually going to be into what it is you've done. Otherwise, what's the effing point? Submit to them, little cover letter, this is what it's about, here's a sample chapter, let me know what you think, etc, etc. This can be an incredibly harrowing process. You know, you can get turned down hundreds of times. I'm not going to sugarcoat it for you, bro. It's going to happen. But if you eventually get picked up, that's wicked. And let me just say, as a confidence booster here, somebody read the manuscript for 50 Shades of Grey and thought it was good. If that gets published, you have a really good chance of getting published too. I mean, come on, really? Your second option is to publish the manuscript yourself. Now this is what I did. There are a number of options for you here. You can go to Amazon and publish in their Kindle store as an ebook, which is what I did. You can also go to sites like Goodreads and just put it up on there. A top tip here from me would be to invest in cover artwork. It's so shallow, I know, but people still judge a book by its cover. So I actually commissioned my good friend, I'll pop a link to him below, he's really phenomenal. But you could also use something like Canva if you wanted to, just to give a nice professional looking cover for your book. If you do decide to publish your own work, you will need to do a little smidge of promotion to get it out there. What I did was create a landing page for my book using Squarespace, and got a couple of reviews from bloggers. I sent out the manuscript along with the playlist and said, you know, would you mind giving this a read? Let me know what you think. And then I featured their reviews on my site and plug away at it like you would anything else. Pop that thing on your LinkedIn, pop that thing on your Twitter. Plug yourself, why not? Be your own biggest fan. Another cheeky little tip for planning and writing is a website I found recently called novelsuite.com, a novel planning software. It's a really handy tool if you're coming into this fresh and you don't want to have to go through book after book after book learning how to construct, edit and publish your story. That's the way I did it, and I can assure you it took a really effing long time. I wish that Novel Suite had been around when I was writing my book, but it wasn't. I'll drop a link for you in the description box below if you want to check that out. It's a really handy way to plan and structure your time, so it's well worth checking out if you're serious about writing your own book. And that brings us to the end of the video. If you have any questions about this or anything else, drop me a comment below or call me out on Twitter at @EJCownley and use the hashtag KissMyAs, and I will answer your questions. Until then, take care, don't catch my germs, and I'll see you next week. Over and out.